you 60, 75 years old, don't tell your children these 7 secrets, especially number 7. Welcome to the Talk with John channel, your go-to place for great stories and helpful advice after 60. I'm John. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on more important conversations. Now let's get started with today's content. I've lived through nearly 70 springs, most of them spent walking alongside thousands of middle-aged men in my role as a counselor. But the role that has taught me the most in life hasn't been that of a teacher, it's been that of a father. Being a parent when your children are young is already a challenge, but being a parent when your children are grown, when they have families of their own, requires even more clarity, restraint, and wisdom. There was a time I believed that honesty was everything, that once our children became adults, they had the right to know everything. But through the years and through a few regrets, I've come to understand this. Some things, no matter how sincere, can cause harm if shared at the wrong time or in the wrong way. And unfortunately, the ones we end up hurting the most are often the people we love the most. So today I want to share with you 5 things that, based on my years of experience, I believe we're better off keeping to ourselves. Not out of secrecy, but out of love, out of a desire to protect the peace within our families and preserve our own dignity. 1, don't share too much about marital conflicts with your children, because not every burden needs to be passed down. As we grow older, it's natural to want someone to confide in, and for many parents, that someone becomes their adult children. We believe they're old enough to understand, mature enough to listen, and strong enough to carry a part of our emotional load. But over time, I've learned that when it comes to the ups and downs in a marriage, especially later in life, some things are better kept between spouses. Even when shared with the best intentions, venting frustrations about your partner to your children often leads to more confusion than clarity. They might feel caught in the middle, unsure of how to respond. They may begin to take sides, often unintentionally, leading to tension, guilt, or even resentment. And worst of all, the home they once looked to for warmth and stability may start to feel like a place of emotional strain. The truth is, adult children still crave the comfort of knowing their parents are okay, that their foundation is solid. When we overshare the conflicts or complaints we have with our spouse, it can shake that sense of security. Some children respond by withdrawing, others try to fix things, only to burn out emotionally. Neither is healthy for them or for us. That doesn't mean we must pretend everything is perfect, but it does mean we should choose our words and our timing with care. If you need to talk things out, turn to a trusted friend, a counselor, or even your partner. Privately, protect your children from the weight of problems they can't and shouldn't have to solve. There's a quiet kind of love in choosing not to burden the people you love, and there's strength in knowing which conversations are meant to heal and which are best left in silence. At this stage in life, peace at home is precious. Let's not risk it by saying things that were never meant to be heard outside the marriage. 2, don't disclose your full financial situation to your children, because too much honesty in this area can complicate relationships and create unintended burdens. Money is one of the most sensitive topics in any relationship, and that includes the relationship between parents and their adult children. As we age, many of us feel the urge to be completely transparent about our finances. We think they're grown now, they deserve to know everything. Better to prepare them than leave them guessing. But I've seen time and time again that sharing too much, especially too soon, can do more harm than good. If you have significant savings, your children may begin to see those funds as an inheritance or a safety net they can fall back on. This can unintentionally change the dynamic between you. Expectations start to form, boundaries blur, and over time, what began as open communication can quietly turn into dependency, or worse, entitlement. On the other hand, if you're facing financial difficulties and you lay everything bare, your children might feel obligated to step in, even if they're struggling themselves, even if they're not in a position to help. The result? Guilt, worry, resentment, and a reversal of roles that neither of you were emotionally prepared for. There is a fine line between honesty and oversharing. Instead of disclosing exact numbers or every financial detail, focus on what truly matters. Teach your children financial responsibility. Share what you've learned about saving, planning, and living within your means. Make sure your legal documents, wills, insurance policies, healthcare directives, are in order. And when you do need to discuss financial matters, keep it simple, direct, and free of emotional weight. Your money should never define your relationship. The wisdom and values you pass on will always matter more than the balance in your bank account. In old age, financial independence is a form of dignity. Whether you have a little or a lot, it's wise to keep a portion for yourself, quietly, respectfully, so you can face the future with confidence and peace of mind. Don't burden your children with regrets from your past, because the past should teach, not weigh down. We all carry regrets. No one reaches old age without looking back and thinking, if only I had. And for many of us, sharing those regrets feels like a way to pass on wisdom, offering our children the lessons we learned the hard way. But here's what I've learned after decades of listening, counseling, and reflecting. When we speak of regrets too freely, we don't just pass on knowledge, we pass on emotional weight. Telling your children you regret not taking a certain time, or marrying too young, or not raising them differently, no matter how lovingly it's said, can cut deeper than you intend. They may begin to question whether their life was the result of your mistakes. They might feel guilt over things they had no control over. Or worse, they may start to wonder if they were ever truly part of your happiness. Even when it comes from a place of honesty, unfiltered regret can sound like rejection. I remember a man who once told his daughter, "If I'd taken that offer to move to another city, life might have been very different." He didn't mean harm, but she heard, "Maybe you wouldn't have been born." She carried that misunderstanding for years until it showed up in her own parenting, her own self-doubt. That's the ripple effect of regret when shared without care. So what do we do instead? We reflect with perspective. We share the lessons, but not the weight. You can say, "I once made a decision that didn't work out the way I hoped, but I learned something important from it." You can guide without pouring sorrow into the story, because what your children need isn't the pain of your past. They need the peace you've made with it. The best legacy we leave isn't a list of what we would have done differently. It's the strength to say, "I've lived, I've learned, and I've let go." When we model acceptance, we teach resilience. And that, more than any warning or confession, is what helps the next generation move forward with grace. Or don't express favoritism among your children, even subtly, because love, when measured, always leaves someone feeling small. Every parent has a unique bond with each child. Some kids share our humor, others share our habits. One may call more often, while another may live closer. These differences are natural. But as someone who's seen the long road of parenthood from many angles, let me be clear. When love starts to feel uneven, relationships start to unravel, quietly and sometimes permanently. You might think a passing comment like, "Your sister was always the easy one," or "Your brother's always been the responsible one," is harmless. But those words stay. They settle in the corners of your children's hearts, echoing long after the moment has passed. Even grown children, married, working, raising families, still carry within them a child's longing to know they were seen, valued, and loved just as much as their siblings. When favoritism is spoken, even unintentionally, it creates invisible rifts. Siblings start comparing themselves to each other. Resentment grows in silence. The warmth that should live between them turns into polite distance. Worse yet, when a parent openly favors one child, they don't just lose the trust of the others, they lose the balance of the entire family. I've counseled men who are now in their 60s, still trying to win the affection of a father who once said, "Your brother's the smart one." And I've seen daughters distance themselves from their mothers because they were always too different or too sensitive. So what can we do? We remember that love doesn't need to be the same, but it must feel equally sincere. Every child brings a different light to our life. Let's name and nurture that light without comparing it to someone else's flame. Instead of saying, "You're the one I connect with most," try to. "You've grown into someone I'm deeply proud of," just like your siblings, each in their own way. The true strength of a parent lies not in treating children identically, but in making each child feel uniquely loved. Because in the end, the measure of good parenting isn't found in who calls the most. It's in who feels they can always call and know they'll be answered with love. 5. Don't unload your loneliness or fears onto your children. Because love doesn't mean handing over every burden. As we age, it's natural to feel the quiet creep of loneliness. The house grows still, friends pass away, The calendar fills with doctor appointments instead of dinner dates. And in those moments of stillness, we often turn to the ones we love most, our children. And yet, here's something I've come to learn, not just as a counselor, but as a father who's been through many seasons of life. There's a difference between sharing and offloading, between opening your heart and handing someone your emotional weight. Adult children carry more than we sometimes realize: careers, mortgages, marriages, parenting. When we constantly express our fears about aging, our anxieties about being alone, or our sadness about growing old, they begin to feel something we never intended: pressure. Not love, not connection, but a silent responsibility to make us feel okay again. And the truth is they can't. They can't make the loneliness go away. They can't fix time. They can love us, yes, they can visit, call, and help, but they shouldn't be the sole place we go when our spirit feels heavy. This doesn't mean we stay silent or pretend we're always fine. It means we learn to balance vulnerability with strength, to reach out, but not rely entirely, to share, but also seek connection in other ways. Rekindle friendships. Join local clubs or spiritual groups. Volunteer. Walk. Laugh with people your age who understand the rhythm of these later years. And when needed, speak to a counselor who's trained to listen without carrying judgment or burden. Because here's the truth. Your children want you to be okay, not because it's their job to fix you, but because they love you deeply. The greatest gift you can give them is showing them that even in old age, you still have strength, you still have purpose, you still know how to stand. And when you do feel the need to say something heavy, say it gently, with perspective, with awareness of what they're carrying too. I've been feeling a little off lately, but don't worry, I'm managing. Just needed to share that for a moment. That's the kind of honesty that invites closeness without guilt. In the end, growing old with grace isn't about pretending to be invincible. It's about choosing when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply take a deep breath and remind yourself, I've come this far, I'm still standing, I'm okay. Dear old friend, we've come a long way. From the days of our youth, boldly stepping into life, to now, watching our children grow up, build their own families, and stand on their own. And it's only now that we truly understand. Being a parent isn't just about raising children, it's about learning when to hold on and when to gently let go. Not everything needs to be kept hidden, but not everything needs to be said either, because the deepest kind of love doesn't come from sharing every detail. It comes from knowing what to protect and what to preserve in quiet respect. Our children don't need parents who pour out every burden. What they need is a steady place to land, someone calm, unwavering, and big-hearted enough to make them feel safe when they return home. Growing old isn't the end. It's the time to live deeper, live lighter, and live more honestly than ever before. Thank you for listening to an old man named John, with a heart that still has stories left to tell. See you in the next. You deserve love and joy at every stage of life. Thank you for watching Talk with John channel.